are starting chapter 11, okay? We have this chapter and one other chapter that we have to cover before the EOI. Honestly, I don't really think this chapter is that hard. It's a lot of formulas. If you can follow a formula and plug stuff in, it's really not that hard. Now, the hard part might come in for you if you didn't learn your 30, 60, 90, 45, 45, 90, Pythagorean theorem, trig, all that stuff, then it might be a little bit more difficult, okay? Because we are going to be using that in this chapter and the next. So no time like the present. If you didn't learn the first time around, now's the time to learn, okay? So anyway, so today we're focusing on the area of parallelograms and triangles. Now, just to kind of talk a little bit about what area is. Let's say we were going to fence in a particular area, okay? We're just going to make a fence and we're going to put some sod down, okay? How much fence we would need to go around it is the perimeter, and how much sod we would need to go down in, in the inside of it is the area, okay? So area covers what's on the inside, perimeter goes around the outside. And so we're going to start with the area of a parallelogram, and to find that, it's base times height, okay? Your base and your height always have to be perpendicular to each other, and area is always given in square units, like inches squared, meters squared, centimeters squared. And I've shown you several different parallelograms, okay? We have the generic parallelogram, base times height. Again, the base and the height have to be perpendicular to each other. The second one is a square. I forgot the little marks here, but the second one is a square. And it's still base times height. Now, you might have learned that in a square, to find the area, it's going to be side squared, which is still true, okay? It's still base times height, but it's also side squared, because in a square, your base and your heights are the same length, okay? So you can still rely on that if you want to. And then the next one is your rectangle, okay? And it's base times height. You might have learned length times width, which is still true. And in a rectangle, your length and your width are also your base and your height. So I've just given you one formula that kind of takes care of all of them, but those old ones that you learned still apply. Okay, so a couple of problems here. We're going to find the area and the perimeter. We have a square here, okay? But the only thing that you're given is the length of the diagonal. What happens when you draw a diagonal on a square?
It creates two isosceles.
Okay, it creates two isosceles right triangles. And so what do we know about these two angles? Okay, they're 45, 45, 90. Okay, so remember back from a couple of chapters ago, in your 45, 45, 90, your hypotenuse is radical 2 times the leg. So if your hypotenuse is 16, what are you going to do to find the leg? Okay, you're going to divide by radical 2. You cannot have a radical in the denominator, so you rationalize it. You end up with 16 radical 2 over 2, which is 8 radical 2. So each one of these legs are 8 radical 2. Kind of a shortcut to that, if you know the hypotenuse, the leg is half of that times radical 2, okay? All right, so we're going to find area, which is base times height, and my base and my height are both 8 radical 2. 8 times 8 is 64, radical 2 times radical 2 is 2, and so my area is 128 meters squared. The perimeter, being a square, all four sides are equal, so it's 4 times the length of the side. My side is 8 radical 2, and so if I multiply that, that gives me 32 radical 2. That is my exact answer. Or, if I plug that into my calculator, it gives me 11, times 4. It gives me 45.3 meters. Okay, 45.3 meters. Now, do you see how I wrote the formula down? I showed you what I was plugging into the calculator, and I gave you the answer. I expect that in your homework, okay? I need to know, you don't have to show me every little bitty thing that I showed, But minimally, I need to know what's going into the calculator for you to come up with 128, okay? Because if you don't show me that and you make an error, you don't know what you did wrong, and neither do I, okay? So at least show me what's going into the calculator when you plug it in. And I recommend you have your calculator out so that you can be doing this along with me. All right, here's another one. This one is a parallelogram, okay? And I know the length and the width here, so my perimeter would be easy because it's 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. I have that information. So my length is 18 and my width is 12. That gives me, what, 36 plus 24. That gives me a perimeter of 60 inches, okay? They give you all the information. But when I go to find the area, which is base times height, I don't have my height. But what do I have? I have a 30, 60, 90 degree triangle. So let's remember those rules real quick. Okay? In a 30, 60, 90, your hypotenuse is 2 times the short, and your long is radical 3 times the short. Okay? So in this triangle, what do I have? I have the hypotenuse. So if I know the hypotenuse, I can find the short. The short's going to be what? 6, half of that. And then the long is going to be 6 radical 3. Okay? So now I've got my height. My base is 18, and my height is 6 radical 3. So I've got 18 times 6, which is 108 radical 3. That's my exact answer. And my estimated answer would be 187.1 inches squared. You need to be prepared to give both. And I've said this over and over again. I'm going to say it again. Don't round in the middle of your problem, okay? Keep everything exact until the very end, okay? You're going to get a better answer, and it's a lot of times easier to work with. Okay, here's another one. This is another parallelogram. This one, area is easy to find because I have my base and my height. What are my base and my height? 23 is my base and 24 is my height, right? Even though I had extended the base, you do not include that as part of your base. You just had to extend it so that you could drop the height. So your base is 23 and your height is 24. And so that gives me 552 feet squared for my area. Okay, but now I need the perimeter, which is 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. I've got the length, I don't have the width, okay? So what am I going to have to do to find that? I'm going to have to do the Pythagorean theorem. Okay, does anybody know what the answer is? Is this a triple? It is. You know what it is? 7, 24, 25. Okay? If I add this up here, I end up with 625 equals c squared, okay, which makes that 25. Okay, so I've got 2 times 23 plus 2 times 25. That's 46 plus 50, which is 96 feet for my perimeter. All right, so any questions on what I did there? Following the formula is not really hard. The hard part comes in and trying to figure out what to put in, right? You might have to go back and use your 30, 60, 90, your Pythagorean theorem, okay, something like that. Okay, have a couple of little postulates here. These are kind of just common sense. If you have an oddly shaped figure, okay, and you want to find the area of it, you can break it up into pieces and find the area of the one and the area of the other, okay, and then add them together. That's what that tells me. The next thing says, if you've got two shapes that are exactly the same, what's going to be true about their areas? They're the same. Okay, so those are both kind of common sense. Okay, area of a triangle. I got two different formulas up here, but they're the same formula, okay? half the base times the height. That's what I learned. Okay, but I think most of you guys rely on base times height divided by 2. Am I right? They mean the same thing, right? When you take half of something, it's the same thing as dividing it by 2. So we'll kind of concentrate on using that one. All right, so we want to, if we look up here at these triangles, I got 3 different triangles. Sometimes you draw the height inside the triangle. Sometimes your base and your height are sides of the triangle, like in a right triangle. And then sometimes you have to extend the base to drop the height outside, like in an obtuse triangle. Okay? Again, the base is still what the base is. Okay? Don't use the extension. All right, so we want to find the perimeter and the area. Let's see. What should we find first here? The perimeter? Okay, do we have enough information to find the perimeter? Not quite, because we're looking at this black triangle right here, and I've got this length and this length, but I don't have this one. What am I going to have to do to find that length? I'm going to have to use the Pythagorean theorem. So I'm going to do 19 squared plus 30 squared equals c squared. So, and I'm going to leave this exact, 19 squared plus 30 squared. I end up with 1261 equals c squared. So if I take the square root, c is radical 1261. So to find the perimeter, I'm going to do 27 plus radical 1261 plus 41. Now, when I plug this into my calculator, make sure that you separate yourself from that radical. Use a parenthesis or arrow over to get out from underneath the radical. You don't want to add 41 to what's under the radical, okay? So I get 27 plus radical 1261 plus 41, and I end up with 103.5 inches for my perimeter. Okay, area, base times height divided by 2. Do I know my base and my height? Okay, my base is 27, my height is 30, and I'm going to divide that by 2. Now, I could just plug that in my calculator and divide by 2. Okay, sometimes people don't realize that you can take half of one or the other also. And sometimes that makes mental math easier. I can take half of 30, which is 15, and do 27 times 15, which I think is 405. Or, like I said, you can just type 27 times 30 divided by 2. But sometimes it does make the mental math easier. This one's not necessarily the case. I would still have to plug that in. I just knew the answer from last hour. So it's 405 inches squared. But you can divide 2 into one or the other, but not into both. You can do the product. For example, let's say you had 4 times 8 divided by 2. Okay? I can take 2 into 4, which is 2, times 8, which is 16. Or I can take 2 into 8, which is 4, times 4, which is 16. Or I can multiply those together, which is 32 divided by 2, which is 16. Okay? I know that's a simple thing, but I always show that. People are like, really? You could do that? All right. Now, let's look at the next one. What kind of triangle are we dealing with in this one? It's equilateral, okay? And how do we know that it's equilateral? We got 60 here, so it's got to be 60 up here. It's equiangular, and if it's equiangular, it's equilateral. So that means if this side's 26, this is 26, and that is 26, okay? And so my perimeter is going to be 3 times 26, which is 78 centimeters. Now, my area, I'm going to do base times height divided by 2. Now, I heard some of you say we had a 30, 60, 90 in here. Do we have a 30, 60, 90? Yes, we do. Okay, it's one of these. Okay, because when you drop that height, it bisects that 60 into two 30s. What does it do to the base? It divides it by 2. It bisects it also. And so now I can use this 30, 60, 90 to find the height of my triangle. It's also the long leg of my 30, 60, 90. So my short leg is 13, so what's my long leg going to be? 13 radical 3. Okay, so my base is 26, my height is 13 radical 3 divided by 2. Okay, well half of 26 is 13, so I've got 13 times 13 radical 3 is 169 radical 3. That's my exact answer. And 169 radical 3 is 292.7 centimeters squared. All right, any questions on what I did there? Nope. Are we all good so far? Okay. Here's another one. We've got two more. Little application here. DeAndre needs enough mulch to cover a triangular garden shown and enough paving stones to border it. If one bag of mulch covers 12 square feet and one paving stone provides a 4-inch border, how many bags of mulch and how many stones does he need to buy? Okay, so we want to know how much mulch is going to go on the green part, and we want to know how many paving stones, which is going to go around the brown border. Okay, so what do we have to find here? The area and the perimeter. Which one do you want to find first? Perimeter, okay. So, and it's easy because I gave you everything, right? So I've got 7 plus 15 plus 23. That's what? 45 feet. Okay, so what am I going to have to do to figure out how many paving stones I need? Okay, now be careful because it's 45 feet. The paving stones are 4 inches. I need to transfer it into inches. How do I go from 45 feet to inches? Times 12. So I got to do 45 times 12, which is 540. And then what am I going to do to figure out how many paving stones I need? Then I'm going to divide by 4. And I need 135 stones. So 135 stones. All right, so now we need to find the area so we know how much mulch we need, okay? That's base times height divided by 2. We know my base. What's my base? 7, and my height is 9, and then we're going to divide that by 2. So we end up with what? 63 divided by 2, which is 36, I thought it was 31.5. 31.5. So it's 31.5 square feet. Now, it says mulch covers 12 square feet. So how am I going to figure out how many bags of mulch I need? Divide it by 12. And I think it ends up being 2.625 bags, right? Can you buy 2.625 bags? No, so how many bags do we need? I have to go up because if I went down, it wouldn't be enough. Now, I'll be honest with you, I have done this 1,000 times. I don't ever go and measure my flower bed, but you know what? How much time I might save if I did? Because then I would know how much I needed, right? Okay. One time I had to go buy I put those little pebble things, those little pebble rocks, and I bought what I thought was enough, and I had to go back like 3 times, you know. And those are heavy, and it would have been way better if I'd just done it all at once. But anyway. Then my house burned down the next day, so it was just like really not worth it at all. It was kind of, but I put them back because nothing grows there except stones, which they don't grow, I guess. All right, last one. The height of a triangle is 5 centimeters more than its base. The area of the triangle is 52 square centimeters. Find the base and the height. Okay, so we know area is base times height divided by 2 on a triangle. We know the area, right? We're going to work backwards because we want to find the base and the height. Now, we really don't know either one of them, but it gives us the height in terms of the base. It says the height of the triangle is 5 centimeters more than its base. Do we know what the base is? No, so what are we going to let it be? X. Okay, and it says the height is 5 centimeters more than that. So what's that going to be? X plus 5. Okay, so we come over here and we have my base times my height divided by 2 is equal to the area. Okay, so I need to figure out what X is. What am I going to do? Multiply both sides by 2. Okay, get rid of that fraction. So we end up with 104 equals x times x plus 5. Then what am I going to do? Okay, distribute the x. Okay, so 104 equals x squared plus 5x. Yes. Get it equal to 0. So I got to move that 104 over. So I get x squared plus 5x minus 104. And so what do we have to do to solve this kind of problem? I got to factor it, product and sum. So my product, I multiply the first and the last coefficient, which is negative 104. My sum is the coefficient of my middle term. So I need two numbers that multiply together to give me negative 104 and add together to give me 5. Now, I can look at this, because this is the hardest part for people, figuring out what the numbers need to be. I know 4 divides into that, doesn't it? It ends in an 04, so I know 4 divides into it. But if I divide 4 into it, my two numbers are going to be too far apart, aren't they? So, but since I know 4 divides into it, I might try a multiple of 4. What would be the next multiple of 4 that I might try? 8. And if I take 8 and divide it in there, it goes 13 times. Okay? Is that a good difference? Yes. So I'm going to use 8 and 13, but they have to be opposite signs because it needs to be negative. Which one needs to be negative? The 8, because I want a positive difference. All right. So I've got my numbers. So this factors into x minus 8 and x plus 13. And so I set x minus 8 equal to 0 and x plus 13 equal to 0. And x is 8 and negative 13. Now, can I use both of those answers? No. Which one am I going to use?
8.
The 8. Okay. So x represents my base. So my base is 8 centimeters. And my height is 5 more than that, so it is 13 centimeters. Any questions? All right, no questions. Then your assignment is on page 783.